Good morning, YouTube. Dr. Sola coming to you from Lagos, Nigeria. So, I had promised that in 2 days I would do a video giving an update on my long 200 amp hour batteries. Was I able to get them back? Did they do what they are supposed to do? So, first things first, my old flooded lead acid batteries are still here. I'm sad I wasn't able to get them back because the promise of capacity was just beyond anything I could dream. Sadly, I did not get them back, so they're going to get broken up and recycled for lead. Now, my long batteries I told you about, I had purchased them in 2018, loaned them to a customer while we're waiting to get his lithium-ion batteries in, brought them back, loaned them to another customer while waiting to get his lithium-ion batteries in. Sadly, my people didn't bother checking the low battery cutoff, so these batteries fell to about 10.5, 11 volts repeatedly, and of course, there was some damage to these two. There were 4 of them. There was damage to these two. So when we pulled them out of our warehouse, they were sitting at about 10.8 volts each. And my concern was that because of the deep discharge and the length of time it sat, that there might be very serious sulfation and very serious loss or degradation in capacity. Now, to give you an idea, this little 300 watt inverter here, 50 amp 100 volt charge controller, only powers lights. Maybe people charge phones. At some point they might add a fan. So for me, it didn't represent a whole lot of demand for what we needed to do with this. So we put it in, and that was on Monday. Yeah, we put it in on Monday. Yes, we put it in on Monday. And when we started the initial charge, it took the charge controller about a minute or two to wake up. And then once he woke up, it was putting about 400 watts or about 30 amps into the batteries, and it slowly started to climb and then got to 13.5 volts and wouldn't climb any higher. So when I saw 13.5 volts and it wasn't climbing any higher, I felt good, because what it was telling me was that there was still some capacity left, and we're slowly trying to build capacity into the battery, into the system, into the battery. We're slowly trying to refill it. So let me liken it to a gas tank. As you put fuel in, as it fills up, then the voltage will rise. Well, a little different with lead acid batteries. Once you put a lot of current in, the voltage will rise. When you take that current off, that voltage will drop, which is perfectly normal. But if the battery is bad, that voltage rise will be much quicker, because you don't have the amount of capacity you have is much smaller. So think about your fuel tank. It's 3/4 full, and then you go to put fuel in. The quarter will fill in. The quarter that's left will fill up much faster than if the tank was completely empty. So same thing here. It took us quite a while. The entire first day we didn't exceed 13.5 volts. It stayed there for a while. Then the next day, the next morning, it didn't require a whole lot to get it back to 13.5 volts. Then it got to 14 volts. Then I came back in, and it was in absorption. It's in float right now. Absorption is right here. It was in absorption, which is good. So in absorption for lead acid batteries, it means your battery is about 80 to 90% full. And what it's going to do now, instead of trying to push maximum current in, it maintains voltage till the battery gets full. So let me repeat that. When the battery is initially charging, it puts maximum current in. Current is amps. So you have your 400 watts turning into amps. Your 470, 480 watts was turning into 30 amps, and that's what's being fed into these batteries to get them full. Once the battery gets to a certain point, what it does is it maintains voltage. The current that's being pushed in, the amps that's being pushed in, will be substantially less, because it doesn't require that much effort to maintain voltage. Until the last 10% is into the battery, all it does is maintain voltage while reducing current. Okay, so that's what it does in absorption. And then once it gets into float, it only keeps the amount that you need to keep the battery top, and then power whatever loads you have on. So right now the battery is in float, and we set it 13.8 volts, not quite 13.8, and is only producing, let's see if you can read it. It takes this a little bit of time for, 92 watts, 82 watts, 92 watts, depending on what they're pulling. So to maintain float and to power whatever we have out there, it only needs about 80 some odd watts, 88 watts. Okay, in terms of current, 6.4 amps is all it needs. So very minimum to maintain float. So for me, so having said that, so what was the experience? So yesterday evening, after the sun had gone down, while the inverter was on all day, I didn't turn it off. Once I came in and the battery started to get into absorption, I put the inverter on. As you can see, the inverter is still on. And the inverter stayed on till, the inverter is still on, has been on since yesterday up until now. So when I came in about 7:45 p.m. yesterday, the batteries were at 12.8, 12.9 volts. That's what it was at. So I'm like, okay, there's nothing going in 12.8. So I went and put the lights on outside. I told people to put lights on. It dropped to about 12.8, 12.7. This morning, it was at 12.6. So there was barely any change. These will start at 12.5 volts. Within 2 or 3 hours, it will drop to 10.5 volts. And we lost it. And it was just 1 or 2 batteries that were doing that. The other 4 were good, just 1 or 2 that were struggling to do what they needed to do. This, it's much smaller capacity, so we're able to charge 400 amp hours versus 800 amp hours, 800 amp hours, 400 amp hours at 12 volts. I'm sure one was already full, so it didn't require as much effort to charge these batteries as it did to charge these. Also, I'm sure we had a little better capacity when we started out relative to what we had here. Second, another thing also is because they're connected in parallel instead of in series as we connected these. In parallel, they tend to self-balance. So parallel means the plus to plus, minus to minus. So they tend to self-balance. When you take voltage, the voltage of this one is the exact same voltage as this one. So that's the advantage of parallel connections. The batteries will tend to self-balance. So they always match the same voltage. When you charge them, they tend to charge equally. So I'm excited. I feel good. This was a success. I'm now thinking that I'm going to remove one of the 2 solar panels because we're not using anywhere near what we thought. We have 600 watts. We're going to reduce it to 300 watts. And then one of those 300 watts I'm going to add to my system. So I'll have 2,100 instead of 1,800. So I have 2 sets of solar panels. One has 2 kilowatts on it. One has 1,800. The one that has 1,800 will now go to 2,100 because they do not need the capacity. They don't need the amount of solar panels that I'm giving them because they're not using anywhere near anything. And with the oversized batteries, they'll always be good. So once again, thank you very much for all that commented. Thank you for the well wishes about my relative that passed. If you're yet to subscribe, please click the subscribe button. If you like what you see, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any comments, please post it in the comment section below. Once again, this is Dr. Sola coming to you from Lagos, Nigeria. So here's a quick discharge test. We took the charge controller off the battery, so it's not charging. And we've been running the fan for about 10 minutes now. Our voltage when we disconnected was in the 13s, and now it's resting at 12.7. Let me see, I should back up a little bit, let it focus. Sorry, it takes a little bit of time to focus, but take my word for it, it's 12.7 volts. So for me, I'm feeling really good. It's a 50 watt fan. I mean, it's old, so it might be pulling about 60 watts. But this for me is incredible. I just can't. So now what we're doing is we're going to check to make sure that these are the batteries that are the bad batteries, because they had good batteries and bad batteries. And when they put the load tester on this one, it was 8.6 from 10 point something. So he's going to put a load test on the other one to make sure that the other set are the good and these were the bad. But so far so good. I mean, I'm beyond excited. It seems to be the resting voltage for this particular inverter is this particular set of batteries, is 12.7 volts, 12.8, 12.7 volts. So I'm not seeing any fade away, and all we power right now are lights, so I'll allow them to add fans. You see, we're running it directly off the inverter. Excited. Thanks for watching. Once again, this is Dr. Solar coming to you from Lagos, Nigeria.